you need a bit of happiness and a bit of sadness to navigate this world. You can't, like, it comes with the territory. As soon as we can acknowledge the complexities of this world, we can take it one step further to acknowledging that the world needs to be complex.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Queer Network. This is Queer Conversations. My name is Justin Gerhard. Today is a very special guest coming all the way from Ontario, Canada. His name is Haui, aka Howard J. Davis, who is the creator and director of an upcoming documentary called Mixed Up. We are so excited to have you on the network. Welcome, Haui, aka Howard J. Davis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell everybody what Mixed Up is about.
Mixed Up is really, the seed of it was my own story, having the chance to really ponder questions about what the isolation is of being mixed and queer. And I question a lot of themes around passing and really how we navigate celebrating the beauty of difference rather than it being something that is a hindrance, but rather, a blessing. And so I navigate my own questions and speak with my own family and some found family that I've accumulated along the way, and really wanted to know from each individual what was the biggest blessing and the biggest struggle of being mixed. And we found out together really that you need a bit of both to get through this world. And being mixed up is both a good thing and, it's something that we all carry. So it's a very big personal process that I realized, I finally had the opportunity to really take autonomy over my own voice.
Now, it's unfortunate that I have to clarify this, but I know there's people watching at home that don't even know what you're talking about because they are white and have never experienced this or didn't even know it was a thing. So not to dumb it down, but just as a way to set the tone, being mixed, being that you are more than one ethnicity, is that, how do you describe that to people that are that have never had to even talk about it?
It's interesting because I'm a generation of within my own family that I am often assimilated as just another white guy, and people don't realize that I'm not just that which they would perceive me as. And because I've found in this process especially, I have almost conflated my queerness and my blackness. So being mixed up is sort of, I say that it's an umbrella term for being all things. I'm not one thing or another. Like many of us, we're all unique. And I realize, coming into my 30s, I'm 30 this year, that's a beautiful thing rather than always being so hard on myself. It's been a really cool way of settling and grounding.
And for those that don't even know what the word passing means, I know that it's a word that you're very familiar with, but I know there's lots of people out there that probably don't understand it or think it means something else. So what do you mean when you say that?
Well, passing was used often for people that were of one race, one ethnicity, and passing for something that they were more, that they were perceived as to the world. And it happened a lot in the American South, that there's a very famous story of a woman named Ellen who passed for a white man to save her and her husband from being enslaved. They came up over the border. And, in America, Japanese, Chinese immigrants passed from Mexican to get work here. So the history of passing is obviously a very big subject. And as people perceive me as white, I sort of liken it to, I always have to come out of the closet every time I talk about my history, because my dad is Caribbean, my mom is white.
And I mean, again, related to the queer community, passing was a thing too at one point, as straight, and how that was a protecting yourself from discrimination. Why did you want to make this film now? What was the seed that was like, nope, this has got to grow right now. We got to water this seed right now.
Right. Well, I think so much of this time in isolation and quarantine, we're all in different parts of the world. And that pressure of feeling alone, I think I wanted to subvert that and really, like I said before, like take autonomy over my voice and have this chance to share my story. And it may not resonate with all people, but I think this movement of people that are mixed and not just of white and something else, you can be mixed within cultures as well. I think it's a subject that resonates with a lot of people. And there have been articles that have stated it, by the year 2050, we all will be. So this is not new, but it is new to certain ears.
Dad, can I look through that?
Yeah. Filming. The counter going round? Places, hang on.
They say before you're born, you're only a twinkle in your father's eye.
So in the film, you show, and we get to see what your relationship is like with your father, whom you clearly love dearly, though it is complicated at the same time because of his feelings around you, your sexuality. What's the relationship like with him now? Has he seen this? Will he see this?
It's I'm glad you bring that up, because it's something I am always afraid of how he will hear what I have to say in this film. But I realized very early on in the process that this felt like a bit of a love letter to him. And as we know, as queer men, our relationships with our dad are very tumultuous. And I think as a Black male, that I'm not trying to suggest it's worse or better in any way, but it's even more distinct. And I think for me, with this film, I wanted it to be a way to sort of clear the air in a way, and so hopefully that we can move forward. And and no, he hasn't seen it. I don't know when he will, but I hope that he can see that it was my attempt to bridge something between us.
Yeah, I mean, art is often the way when words don't always, or just having a conversation with somebody just doesn't get the point across. I think we're seeing in 2020 that we're going to need more art like this film in order to initiate the conversation. So there's like a place to leap off from, which I think is the power of this. So thank you for helping start those conversations. Has this process been healing for you, making this film?
It has, yeah. I sort of, at the end of the film, as you've seen, there's this sequence where it's almost like spoken word, film, photograph, it all sort of bridges into this final wrap that I do. And I really mean it when I say in that it's an ongoing healing. It's an ongoing process. It's not like, bang, I'm 30, I know exactly who I am. We're constantly in transformation, and that's art. Art is transformation for me. And I hope it is for people that see this film.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to go through this journey of developing this piece of art, which is one of the reasons I had so much fun watching it, was the performative art that we get to experience along with the spoken word, and then mixed in with the interviews. What is your advice after going through this process to people who feel as mixed up as you felt?
Well, I think it's okay. The biggest advice I would have for people is all those questions, as difficult as they are, they're worth navigating. They're worth mining and really thinking about, because as I did have a conversation with my mom about this, and she said, as she does in the film, it's not your problem. Why are you thinking about this? And I go, well, it is actually. Life is about dealing with the problems that you have and how you get through them. And so anyone that's interested in exploring their own narrative, I would say, explore the really hard questions. And for this process, like my producer, I'm so grateful to Jack Fox for being on this project with me, because it really helped. We were in quarantine before, and then COVID hit, and we were in the same situation, so we could get a lot done together. So artistically,
Absolutely.
get a good producer, anyone.
And I think to add to that, I would say that, as I've already alluded to, like, art is healing. So in taking your advice a step further, that process of asking the hard questions often can be aided and helped by some form of art, whatever that means for you is for you, the listener at home, to decide. But I do believe that that's how we're getting through 2020, as an example. That's how we're coping with the heavy conversations that are being had, which are necessary for this
Yeah,
growth.
and especially in this movement with Black Lives Matter, and where I live, it is not uncommon for me to hear, but I just don't see color. And I go, you have to start learning to see it, and you cannot assimilate me as white to make yourself comfortable.
Exactly.
That's really I'm not shaming you, Justin, but it's a really interesting time that people categorize to divide rather than really acknowledging that each of us get to define who we are.
Yeah. How do you reconcile passing as white, which you mentioned used to be a method of survival, and now can also deny the existence of your mixed heritage?
Right, because, well, for the longest time, we only knew two ideas of what racism was. It was segregation and assimilation. And you assimilated to the dominant culture. And we know now, we're learning to re-trigger our brains that neither of those are the answer. It's anti-racism. And we must fight every day to combat prejudice. And I think for myself, in that situation, it's complicated, being white passing and being born in England. But I think having moved to North America, it's been a really big process of decolonizing myself in a way, because, we're on unceded territory in North America. We're not indigenous to this country. So passing, it's complicated because, as you said, it can deny the existence of your truest self if you are sort of coding and switching.
Yeah. It is complicated because even when it comes to we talked about this earlier about being gay, that passing as straight used to be a method of survival. And now even within our industry as actors, to play a gay role, if you don't play it gay enough, then you're not gay. And
Right.
it just feeds into these stereotypes of it being only one way, which I believe that the transgender conversation is helping to, and the non-binary conversation is helping to start erasing that binary system that we know isn't accurate anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that, as I said before, because I've conflated my queerness and my blackness, it's hard to, when you do that, to see them as separate. And I definitely
Mm-hmm.
understand the struggle of passing, especially in our industry, because it's media, it's amplified. We are, in some ways, we sort of have to hide parts of ourselves. But then I also want to challenge that idea of men before us fought for the simple right to love one another, people of color, just to exist. So what are we doing to contribute to that conversation? Because our industry is amplified, because we're on media, there's a pressure as a queer man when I'm going in for a leading part to have to hide parts of myself. And then I often will think, if people before me were fighting just for the existence to love who they love and to be themselves, why can't we move this industry to reflect the same thing? Like, I don't want to have to conform anymore. Really.
Absolutely. And this is why we have to keep having these conversations. They have to be addressed. And bringing up the conversation of being mixed is, I'm not comparing it, but it's almost like it's not talked about enough. Like bisexuality, it sort of is the mixed ground of like being two things. People just want to say pick one. Well, that it's not how the world works, or not. It's not how we as humans really do exist.
Right. Yeah, and it's something I didn't want to really um, go to talk about in the film, but it's interesting where you speak about bisexuality as the middle ground, where I actually would go further to say that I think intersexuality is, because
Mm.
I was actually born um, with intersexual traits. I actually haven't said
Oh.
this publicly very much because um, hyperspadias is what it's called, and about 1 in 125 men are born with this symptom. And on the doctors, when a child is born, will often reconstruct for kids to fit within a binary.
Yep.
And just reading about this history of intersexuality and going, oh, the history of hermaphrodite, I go, that's my, even though I am he, him pronouns, I anatomically look like a man, I was not born that way. And
Hmm.
so even that's something I'm really, can't believe I just admitted that, because it's very, very personal, but it's something I think is so worth discussing on
It's
a bigger
absolutely,
level.
and it's absolutely not discussed yet enough within queer culture. Thank you for taking it that step further, because I think we get stopped at these, there's only two people you can choose between. Well, pansexuality has opened that up even more, non-binary, but to be intersexual and to think about if the doctors hadn't have just chosen for you
Right.
in that moment.
And I'll tell you, like, I had surgery when I was 13 too. It was not fun, but had I not done it, I would, not, like I say in the film, like you need a bit of happiness and a bit of sadness to navigate this world. You can't, like, it comes with the territory. As soon as we can acknowledge the complexities of this world, we can take it one step further to acknowledging that the world needs to be complex.
Mm-hmm. we are all so many things. We just are.
Right.
Is there anything we haven't discussed?
I'd love to talk about some of the stuff that I'm going to be doing as well.
What's coming up for you?
Well, I'm working with a new cohort of about 15 artists through Black Lives Matter Toronto. We're part of their Wild Seed residency. So we'll be working together for 20 months on art and activism, which I am so excited to be doing. It's, I don't know if I said this before, but it's so wonderful how open the Black community have been to me. It's just, I think it's so beautiful that it's such open arms. And I'm also working on a new Black opera about Portia White, who was an opera singer from Nova Scotia. So I'm in the process of developing a piece about her and another piece about my heritage, because I found out through the process of Mixed Up that my great-grandmother was not, in fact, born in Jamaica. She was born in Costa Rica. And so again, this idea of migration and travel is so innate to humans. Like we were migrators. And so I really want to explore what that means to migrate, but also to find roots and to feel comfortable in settling where we are.
Are we all just mixed up? Being mixed is complex, but can also feel free. I'm the quintessential influential version of me. This search is ongoing and can so often feel like a growing definition of what's really real. But instead of being a futile exploration, it's my mixed up manifesto and my proud declaration.
Where can people see the film?
Oh my goodness. So people can see the film on Out TV Go and Apple TV and Amazon Prime. And through Out TV Go, it's going to be available in Canada, the UK, India, Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland.
Amazing. Already, is it up?
No, so the film premieres on November 11th on Out TV Go, and then we are part of Imagination this year out of Montreal. And that is November the 19th to December 6th.
Well, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and our hearts at the Queer Network for sharing this piece of work with us and the world. I know from watching it myself that it will change people's perspectives. It will give them a new understanding of something they may have never thought of before. And I just am so grateful that we got to have this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
And for everybody watching at home, go check out Mixed Up. Obviously, we'll put everything in the description so you guys know where to find it. Follow Haui on Instagram, all this amazing upcoming work that he's doing. And if you've never been to the Queer Network before, please subscribe to the channel. We do new work every week, and hit that notification bell so you stay up to date on all of it. And as always,
keep it queer.
See you next time.